So hi, hello. Sorry if I sound weird. Besides that weird little intro I just did, currently fighting a head cold, and it sucks. And I know I've said that in a lot of videos, but I'm doing a lot of audio in advance, so that I'm not stressing out for the next few weeks slash hopefully early January, depending on how things go. But some things. This is a tag that I've been seeing a lot of YouTubers I follow do. And I was like, hey, you know what? At this point, my art channel isn't even really an art channel, so why don't I do it too? Obviously, I still have art content, I still talk about art topics, but I have been doing a lot more opinionative pieces. I've been doing a lot more, yeah, just opinionative pieces and tags and story times and stuff. So I just feel like it's a fun thing. Don't I want to talk about it? So things that I want to leave in 2019. You've probably already heard this from a lot of people and a lot of regurgitated stuff, but I think it's because a lot of us are pretty fucking sick of it. So, the first thing I have right now is digging up shit from people's past from years ago. So, what do I mean about that? Oh, Michelle's anti-cancel culture. Oh, Michelle. Yeah, I am anti-cancel culture. I actually think cancel culture is stupid and malicious, and it was something that was created with good intent, but it has been so thoroughly abused that no one takes it seriously anymore. A lot like the Me Too movement. I'm not making fun of the Me Too movement, but it's one of those things where enough bad people take advantage of it and then make it to the extremes that now there's jokes about it in TV and there's jokes about it online and there's people making merchandise off of it because they're like, lol, it's funny, I'm gonna ride this wave out because it's just a fade and it's not as serious as it should be, and that's something that sucks. And to change it, we need to have people not use it so easily, to where the littlest thing happens. The littlest thing happens and they try to destroy someone over it, because that's another part about cancel culture is the way people are very malicious about it is that they pretty much, without flatly saying it, I'm going to say it, they want people to die. Like the way they treat people, they want them to not make any money, not be able to live, not be able to get a job, not be able to have family or friends. And in most cases, it's stuff that needs to just happen that you need to be held accountable for. And by that, I mean, obviously, shit I did 10 years ago is not shit I'm okay with now. Because 10 years ago, I was a dumb teenager in high school. And despite what a lot of people want to say and how people talk about how cringy the shit is that they see, that stuff that people have always been doing, it's just now we have a lens and now we have a time capsule that is the internet to like document it. So to me, I feel like if somebody said some stupid shit or did an edgy joke or said some blah blah blah, or did some blah 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 that isn't illegal, I want to emphasize this because I have very strong feelings that if you, abuse your power, manipulate people, abuse people, harm people, you should be held accountable for it. And I don't consider that as the same thing as somebody said a fucked up word 10 years ago. Is it fucked up? Yeah. Did they apologize for it? Or it was actually an apology and not people being like, oh, well, I'm just being attacked. And so this is all dumb and I have free speech. No. You need to actually apologize and be like, hey, I said or did this stupid shit. I am not this stupid person anymore. My actions now have shown that I am not this person anymore. And so I have grown and learned from my mistakes, almost like people are people. And that's how I feel about that. I can go into a long, in-depth thing here, but I want this to get, further along. And the next thing I have is hate watching people. Just don't support them. This is something I had to tell myself because there were some people this year that I very much supported. And if you've watched me, you know that I don't like to name names. But there were some YouTubers and I hate the word influencer, but pretty much some people who I really enjoyed. Sorry, I thought I heard a beeping. And they kind of showed their their true colors, and showed their very predatory nature, and took advantage of their mostly underage slash young slash naive fan base who have self-confidence issues, and claimed it as body positivity. And then when it came out, pretty much just coming out and saying like, well, I was tricked, and not enough people talking about how, well, I mean, you also shouldn't have been doing this openly on the internet. Like, this sounds terrible because people have their kinks and people have their things, but if you are a pretty prevalent person, that's a lot of P's, pretty prevalent person, don't openly have it be with your face. I know that sounds like very creepy, but it's also like, that way you can be a creep on the internet and not use your influence to get people that know you, who care about you, to do these things. And yeah, and then when you get called out for it, instead of seeing actual ramifications, you make merchandise about it, and you make memes about it, and you claim that it was everybody else's fault instead of your own, and then you get to live on with your life like nothing fucking happened. And that made me very angry, and I'm still a little salty about it, but I had to tell myself, I'm like, hey, Michelle, you know what you're gonna do? You're gonna not watch drama about these people anymore. You're gonna unsubscribe and unfollow them and block them, so that way you don't see their shit anymore. Because it would pop up on my feed, and I would get angry, and I would get upset. And, you know, I remember I was time around subscribe, people were talking about it, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm not putting myself in an echo chamber here, because I think there's a big difference from, like, putting yourself in an echo chamber to seeing stuff you just don't want to see because you know it's going to make you upset. And to me, that is it. And it is things like that where it's a few other people. Those are just the ones that stick out very, very strongly in my mind. But the same thing goes for people who are just always in controversy, always in drama, always saying stupid shit for stupid shit's sake, because they are people and they are things. Same with companies who just feed on being in the media. So it's not even so much that, like, realistically, my one thing not viewing them is not going to hurt them in any way because they are just that big. And so it's one of those things where I'm like, you know what? I just don't have time for it anymore. I want it done. And I want people who do that to leave it, because there are some people out there as well who have such hate boners for some people and some things that they're just like sitting there literally waiting for something bad to happen, so they're gonna be like, I fucking know it, and you literally look like you're fucking crazy. If you watch something and you get upset because of watching something, that's one thing. You don't automatically go like, oh, I can't wait to rip you into a new one. It's also a certain reason why I don't like talking about certain people in context where I actually name the people in the context, because I don't want people who just hate follow them to just be like, give me that good sugar, give me that good hate, because it's a very, very toxic way to live and a very unhealthy way to think. And to me, I do think there's a big difference between like listening to drama and keeping people accountable, and then just hating someone to feel hatred. So that's something I want to leave in 2019, and it's probably not going to happen because it seems to only be getting worse, but I can hope. And so the next one is judging people over dumb shit. So you can tell I'm a little irritated when I was writing my notes down. So I have two instances in this where I've had quite a few people judge my husband and I, ironically enough, not online. This isn't an online thing. This is just a real life thing, where they would ask us things like, "Oh, you've been moved out for like a year now. You must be all moved in and all settled, right?" And we're like, "Well, no, not really, because we're collecting things slowly over time because we live on a budget and we don't want to open another credit card just to furnish our apartment." Which, by the way, if you're a person who's done that and you can afford that, good for you. I am not talking about you, but I've known a lot of people who take out credit cards and loans to furnish their houses and their apartments that they can't afford, they can't pay for, and then they get their stuff either repoed or they're living off of bare minimum essentials and they're not happy, but their house is furnished, so there's that. And my husband and I are the same person in that aspect, where we're like, I'd rather just kind of collect stuff over time when we can afford it. And I mean, it's also why for like the first, I think, 4 months we didn't even have a couch in our apartment. We were just sitting in our lounge chair and our work chairs whenever we'd want to do stuff, because couches are expensive. And even then, turns out ours was a hand-me-down couch because a family member had it. But I've seen people who are like that, who, like, when we tell people that we aren't fully unpacked after a year, they're like, what? But you've been there a year. Like, what were you doing? And we're like, well, saving, living, trying to have adventures, getting the essentials. But another thing on this topic was, this happened a few years ago, but I see it a lot. So, and this is what made me judging people about stupid shit, because I think that's a really stupid, shitty thing to judge somebody about. Oh, you don't have a fully furnished apartment. Why? It's like, well, again, like I said. But this one's also really fucking stupid. So this actually happened back when I was in high school, but I'm seeing it more and more. So this needs a little bit of context before I go in depth with it. But I was over at a friend's house, and my friend's mom, this is because, again, I was back in high school, was asking what kind of tableware my family used. Because I think her mom had just gotten, like, some new ceramics or new glass, like, dishware or whatever. And I had to say, oh, well, we don't have any of that. We have plastic. And the reason for the plastic, which my friend's mom knew, was, oh, great, my pet's going crazy, was at that time, my mom and my dad were taking care of my Alzheimer's and dementia ridden grandmother. And it was a very hard time, but we had to do a lot of things that normal people couldn't do for our safety and her safety. One of which was we couldn't have glassware. Literally, she would break it constantly and hurt herself. We also had to, this sounds crazy, but obviously if you've dealt with people who are like this, older people who have these issues, you kind of understand. We had to, whenever we weren't cooking, we had to take off the knobs on our stove, because she would try to cook something and leave the gas on, and there have been actually many instances where we probably would have died if we didn't take these precautions. Now, my friend's mom knew this, and she's like, no, I mean, what kind of glassware do you have? And I was like, plastic. And my friend, who had been at my house, was like, yeah, Mom, they use plastic. And she's like, no, you have to have some kind of glassware. And I was like, we did. We don't use it anymore because of my grandmother. And I remember she just tried to convince me that my family had hidden ceramics somewhere, and it was the weirdest thing, and I had never felt more, like, judged and self-conscious over something as stupid as fucking dishes. And I've never understood people like that. The same thing goes for people now. I agree, now that I'm older and I know about waste, I remember people who used to, like, really look down on using paper plates and stuff. Like, I had some friends whose parents worked a lot and they had paper plates, and us as kids are like, well, fuck it, we don't have to do the dishes now. And it was like, yeah, it was no big deal. But I knew a lot of parents, and I knew a lot of people who were like, oh, they use paper plates, It's like, who the fuck cares? Like I said, now you should care because of the waste, but you really shouldn't care if it's a money issue, The same thing would happen when I would find people who, like, wouldn't use their dishwasher. I would see people who were like, you don't use a dishwasher? And it's like, some people just don't fucking use a dishwasher. Like, why are we judging people on these stupid things? Like, obviously it's human nature to judge people, but I think those are such petty, stupid things to judge people about. And the same thing will go in the art community. I know artists that use non-Copic supplies and non-student or professional grade watercolors, and they get, like, shit on for it when they can actually make really good art with it. And it's like, why are you judging someone if it makes them happy? That makes no fucking sense. Like, a good thing was, like, when that thing was going around where on Twitter recently, where this guy was shitting on those, like, 100-piece art kits, and then people were trying to show them up, like, look at this amazing painting that I made with it, and it's like, yeah, but realistically, as an adult, you're not gonna go out and buy that. It's intended for little kids. Yeah, they suck, and the original thing of the tweet was like, there are cheaper alternatives that are more professional grade if you want to have a professional student or, someone take it a little bit more seriously, that's not judging people, because they turned it into this big class thing when I'm like, no, those things were pieces of shit. Like, I also loved getting them as kids, but they were pieces of shit. And as a kid, I didn't want to be a professional artist, which is why those are marketed towards children, but don't, put them on this pedestal that it's the, hand all be all thing, and then judge people for like, oh, well, I just couldn't afford these supplies. Well, sometimes people just couldn't afford the supplies. You shouldn't also judge people who can't afford the supplies. It's like a stupid thing to judge somebody about, and I think it's fucking stupid, and I think it's the thing I want to leave in 2019, is people judging people for stupid shit. So, and then here's my last one, and this is an actual art one. Artists trying to self-sabotage each other. You see it a lot. I've seen a lot of art. Now, I've also seen now more than ever, I am lucky that with the community we've been making and talking to more artist friends and talking to their communities and doing things, there is a lot more support now, but there are still a fuck ton of artists out there that just want to watch you fail. They are petty and jealous. I've dealt with a lot of artists this year that I was friends with, that I'm no longer friends with, because they were so blatantly jealous of someone else's success that they would bring up shit from their past or talk about all this shit with this person when nobody fucking asked. And it was like, well, if you're having this much of a beef with a person, why are you friends with them? And then they would like give up these excuses, and it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense at all. Like, it just sounds like you're jelly, which, okay, you have every right to be jelly, you have every right to be envious, but, don't have it destroy you, and you try to, in turn, destroy somebody just because they're slightly more popular than you, or if they get a little bit more ahead than you. Sometimes people just get lucky, and sometimes people just work really, really, really hard. And sometimes there are people that are very, very talented out there that I know that just don't work hard enough. And I know that for a fact. And a few of my other friends know that for a fact. And we'll try giving them advice and we'll try pepping them up, but there's just nothing you can do about it. And that's not the same as giving artists shitty advice or giving artists no advice. One of my biggest pet peeves, and I will always say, is when people, I'll do a convention or I'll open up a store, I'll ask an artist a question that I follow, very simple, especially if they're not big and I'm not expecting like, oh yeah, they're big, they're not gonna get my question, whatever. But just Google it. Just Google it. I'm not gonna tell you my supplier, because then you're gonna make what I make, and I don't want that. I don't want someone else to succeed, because then that makes me look like a douchebag. So I'm just gonna tell you to Google it and enjoy the trial and errors of, probably finding really shitty or really corrupt business practices that you get sucked into. Like I said, I've had friends being tricked because of shitty advice from other artists into buying a lot of stuff that they never sold. And then they turn to me and they're like, fuck it, I'm not an artist anymore. I just spent all this money on this thing that didn't go anywhere. And I thought this was going to go somewhere because so-and-so. And it becomes a lot of self-sabotaging, terrible nature, instead of people being, more realistic and helping each other and building each other up and having a nice support network. I'm not saying we have to all kumbaya and be bros, because that's not realistic. There's going to be people out there that don't want to be your friend, and that's fine. That not everyone has to be your friend. But, if you're talking to someone who is really impressionable and really wants to try, you really shouldn't be petty about it, and you shouldn't be narcissistic about it. You should want to help people, and you should want to help people grow, because wouldn't you want someone to help you when you were like that? Because I do. And that's something I hope that this stays in 2019, is that we just have more artists helping each other out and being more supportive of each other, because I'm seeing it more on an incline now, and that makes me really happy. Or who knows, maybe I'm just getting older. So things just change when you get older. But yeah, those are the things I want to leave in 2019. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, I will see you next time. Bye.